Right, we're live, David.
Hello, David. How you doing? And just to let people know that maybe a wee bit surprised at a different background, I'm not in my fortress of solitude this week. I've got myself a new wee laptop, and it's got a cracking microphone and a camera on it. So this is the wife's fortress of solitude, where she does her health work. So look at that big telly. How have I managed to give my wife a big telly like that in her wee office? Bloody hell. It's not right, is it?
Did you manage it? You must screw some bloody holes in the wall. For some reason, this bloody thing is not coming up.
No, what's been happening for the past few years is as we get a new telly, that's the usually the one that goes in the living room, and the one that was in the living room ends up going up to one of the bedrooms. So
Aye. For some reason, this
thanks,
bloody
John.
thing. Oh dear.
What's that?
Oh, this bloody thing's not updating. I'll need to get this way to get
Oh.
Facebook or more. Anyway, folks, for anybody that was sitting about at 2 o'clock this morning waiting on me, I'm terribly sorry.
Thanks, Christina. It's I don't know. It's only because I don't have to do the walk up to my cabin. So there you go. All right. So here I am. And if I don't do the program from here, I'll be doing it from the living room. But it's just that this week my wife's off. Okay.
For some reason, this bloody thing's not updating. Let me get Facebook in.
Maybe Nathan's on to Facebook.
It should still come up on my channel, David. My Facebook feed, and it's not coming up on my feed. And according to Restream, we are streaming to Facebook.
Right. Whilst you're doing that, I'm going to explain something to John, the truck driving legend. John, we had a wee incident that happened where, for no reason at all, the YouTube demonetized us. Well, it was Google that demonetized us. And basically, what had happened was I had set up a Google email address, and it was causing me problems. So I deleted that email address, and what it did was it demonetized the thing. However, the YouTube are onto it, so hopefully it'll be sorted out within the next week to 2 weeks. Okay.
I have no idea what's going on with Facebook, but we're not streaming to Facebook today, but it looks at David.
No idea. Okay.
I
Well,
really
we can't do any technical fixes at this stage now, so we just go ahead.
No, we took me leaving the studio and relaunching the stream, but because it's been
That's
live,
right. Yeah.
right, David. This is an interesting one because it's how you look at this one. Hi, Reagan Elite, folks. If you have the watch Reagan Elite's channel on YouTube, have a wee look. It's excellent stuff. Anyway, folks, the press are about to lose interest in the Hate Crimes Act as more people call them out over the utter nonsense being spewed about it.
Can you tell us why the press and the media are going to suddenly run away scared from the hate crime bill story?
Well, there was a bit of trouble in Edinburgh at the weekend, but we'll get round to that in a minute. And the other reason is, of course, David, as we've already spoke about, these particular things, the laws passed. It didn't pass with any need for a Section 35 order or anything like that. Why is that? Because, as I've said before, it only just brings Scotland into line with England, Wales, and the rest of bloody Europe.
That's what everybody on this side of the argument can't understand. They can't understand why people are getting so het up about it. Because purely and simply it was just to bring us into line with the rest. And it was necessary to bring us into line with the rest.
Anyway, one of the legal eagles along with Adam Tompkins, who was the Tory MSP who steered this thing through Holyrood. Well, one of the advisors to Holyrood on this was a Professor James Chalmer, a Regis Professor of Law at Glasgow University.
Yeah.
And one of the people that steered this through Holyrood. Now, what he said is that they really need to stop speaking nonsense about this act. There's many protections in this act which protects freedom of speech, as there is in the English and Wales Acts.
But let me stop you there, right? What about what Gene Friedman was saying about the misogyny?
In a wee minute, I will get that in a minute. Anyway, Professor Chalmers, he's blaming Police Scotland and their campaign ad to make people aware of this. Now, what he's saying is they didn't highlight the protections that are built into the Act, which protects freedom of speech. And that's what the police should have been concentrating on. Then we move on to Jean Freeman, ex-health minister, who's stood down now and is no longer in Parliament. And she throws in her Tuppence-worth saying the Scottish Government should be prepping people for this bill coming in, so that people really understood what it was. Now, in the Scottish Government's defence, the mainstream media weren't going to let them speak about it. It was always going to be a hammer to hit them with the heat in an election year.
Yeah,
right. But Jane Freeman also says she'd like to see misogyny written into this bill as a crime, as a hate crime. But I don't know how you would categorise misogyny as a group or misogynist as a group. You know, I mean, the reason why this bill exists, David, as you and I know, is because of holes in the Equalities Act. It's why England introduced the bill which protected religious groups from a hate crime or hate being whipped up against them. It's why in 2008 they added age and gender groups to that in a bill as well. So basically, it just brings us in line with everybody else. But as I say, the reason why they're about to back up is because the interesting questions are about to be asked. And that interesting question is, where is this Section 35 order? Yeah. Well, and the reason why there isn't any Section 35 order to veto this bill, and it's why Ash Reagan is having to put out a petition to get this bill overturned, is because they've no intention of overturning it.
Well, it would look bad, wouldn't it, for Alistair Jack to do such a thing?
It would look really stupid, wouldn't it? Overturn the bill that brings us into line with the rest of the UK.
Yeah, correct. Because if he did, then that would give the SNP politicians the opportunity to then ask the question, why have you got rid of this particular bill, which only brings us into line with the rest of the UK?
Right, so this will quietly be dropped now by the press, especially after the trouble in Edinburgh with a women's group who didn't understand the bill, and a transgender group had about a head-to-head in Edinburgh. And what's really, really funny about it is Women's Voices or something like the group was called, were screaming about women's rights not being protected under this act. Hello, women's group. It's protected under the Equalities Act.
Yes.
This bill's been introduced to plug the gaps in the Equalities Act.
Yeah.
Wow. In fact, and to say that this wouldn't strengthen women's rights is an absolute nonsense, because this particular law gives protection to gender groups. The last time I looked, women were a gender group. So the nonsense is starting to go out of hand. It really is. As I say, but the reason why there won't be any fuss further to this is because it's getting to the point where people are starting to ask, well, if it's a problem here in Scotland, why isn't it a problem in England and Wales?
Yeah.
You know?
Remember, guys, they already have all these things covered in their own legislation. and all we've been doing is
Playing catch up.
yeah, telling people, look, all we're doing is we're adding the Scottish legislation into the rest.
All we're doing is catch up here.
Yeah.
But as I say, the reason why this will quietly drop now is because of the trouble it started. And the fact that the police time's been wasted. 3,000 calls from loon balls that I've had to explain to them what you're describing as a description and no a hate crime.
Yeah.
It's mad. Absolutely mad. So, what can you say to that? I think we've covered it. I think this will.
Well, the problem is until it's given main airing on BBC, ITV, Sky, or whatever, showing that all it's doing is adding, and they won't do that, then all we can do is blooming shout in the dark, and hope that our friends will help us by also shouting in the dark until eventually some people start to get the message.
No, as I say, this one will quietly drop now because the mainstream media has whipped this into such a frenzy. It has led to civil unrest.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why this will be quietly dropped.
Yeah.
But as I say, the other reasons is because it's getting to the point where somebody's going to stand up and say, hold on a minute, this stuff's already covered in England and Wales.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on. Scots to be £800 Scots to pay £800 less for water and council tax than RUK in 2024. And according to tax experts, Scots who earn a salary up to £112,000 will pay less tax than residents elsewhere in the UK. Now, on the council tax thing, David, and the water rates, that's got to do with the water rates being frozen and the council tax being frozen. Now, on the Scots paying less tax, even though that we've a new income tax band added, and income tax rates went up for the higher bands, Scots will still be paying less tax on a salary of 112,000, and that's because of the two cuts to national insurance, apparently.
Yeah, don't forget, people in England have got to pay the SAT. You know what that is? You know what the SAT is on their water?
Aye.
It's shit added tax. Yes.
Aye, added tax. That's right.
I thought it was quite funny at the weekend. We had the Oxford Cambridge where they're all doing their own boats and all the rest of it. And it's like they ought to be careful they didn't drink any of the water in the Thames.
And they
Isn't it? You couldn't make it up.
Either.
Yeah, you couldn't. Yeah, you couldn't throw it. I mean, it's tradition that the winner throws the corks into the water. You'd have to give him a bloody frog suit.
You rattle with a bubble. So he didn't die of E. coli or something other.
Exactly, aye. Bloody hell. That's awful thought, isn't it?
But anyway, a bit of good news for Scots. Even though the government budget is being squeezed, because they've managed to find the money to pay for this council tax freeze, and then of course the UK government undermined the same tax base with the national insurance cuts, and of course national insurance was there to cover pensions and hospital was David and the NHS. So of course it's mere undermining of that as well, isn't it? And of course social care. But as there isn't any social care down that road, I don't suppose they care. So that's a wee good news story for people here.
Aye.
They are going to be better off than elsewhere. But it doesn't have.
There are other good news stories coming, guys.
Right. And it doesn't have shut the unionists up now. What's Dross and Sarwar going to shout now? Highest tax part of the UK, highest tax part. Wait, no, according to the Office of National Statistics, your spanner. Shut up.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, the next one we've got to push on is this Branchform, Operation Branchform. It is disgusting that this is still going. And what has happened is that the Crown Office have brought in another guru in order to look over everything, right? And what they've done is they've brought in a few extra people, people that were involved in Nicola Sturgeon's government back when she were up last. All right. Um, to what end? I really don't know. If they haven't had chapter and verse on everything, yeah, my goodness me, they were even going through the Amazon account, you know.
David,
Then,
the thing about it is there is a lot of public pressure now,
yeah,
and the Police Scotland have had to make a statement. And the statement is that they've brought in a fresh pair of eyes to look at it after 3 years.
but the most important thing is that Police Scotland have said it's not us that make the decision to actually take anybody to court. It is the Crown Office, not the Procurator Fiscal in this one. Procurator Fiscal hasn't got a look in on this. It is the Crown Office that will be making the decision. And the Crown Office sits fairly and squarely under Jack Boots, Alistair Jack. Yeah.
Well, as I say, their excuse, because there is a lot of public pressure, and I did call on people, as you know, to contact the Chief Constable and put pressure on Police Scotland. So they have reacted. They've told us what's happening.
Yeah.
They brought in a fresh pair of eyes 4 months ago. After 3 years, why didn't they just hire a fucking forensic bloody accountant?
But they will have done. They will have done. They'll have had several forensic accountants all over everything that they've got to find the tiniest thing, the wee chink in the armour of the SNP reference this, right? They'll have wanted to get them on the tiniest thing so they could make it, build it into something bigger. They haven't. They won't.
As I say,
Because news is, I've got the money. All right, there you go. No.
the other thing that's come out in the latest interview is that high-ranking ministers and members of the HQ in Edinburgh have been re-interviewed
Yeah.
by this new guy.
Yeah.
In fact, they even interviewed people who weren't in the HQ who weren't around at the time.
This is just a political act. That's all it is.
No, but what
Right?
I'm saying is they've had to respond to public pressure.
Aye, yes.
You know,
What they're doing is they're looking at this impending general election, which we now reckon is going to be July.
yep.
And I think they've got to get something. They've got to make hay from this somehow. And they're not gonna. They're not going to be able to.
Well, anyway, apparently the report's pending for the Crown Office. What the CPS has got to do with, I don't know. It's the Procurator Fiscal that operates here in Scotland. You know, so
Yeah.
apparently the Crown Office have decided if this goes any further. I don't think it will. I think this is aimed with it out. Now, they know there's going to be an outrage when this is over. And
The one thing I did not like is I did not like Hamza given the idea that there was something to hide. It was, you know, this has cost us the trust of the people, and both Dave and I disagree with that statement.
well, nobody's done anything
Why?
wrong.
You're not losing trust of the people when nobody's guilty of anything, and we are telling you straight as two SNP members.
When he was asked about
That,
it, he was much more robust and much more
yeah,
media savvy and said,
yeah,
"Hold on a minute, what are you talking about? Trust of the people. Once
yeah.
there's something proved what has been done wrong, then we'll talk about trust of the people."
Yep.
Right, let's move on to the pointlessness of the next one. Shall we? Greens say no pact with SNP at general election, and that they're going to stand as many candidates as they can. Now, David, apart from the fact it could split the vote and let maybe a Labour voter through in the middle and somebody.
No, no, I'll maybe give in to the fact that, and maybe one or two of the areas that we're talking about, the seats, that it might make a bit of a difference, but it's not going to make a big difference.
I'd say apart from the fact it might split the vote.
Yeah.
According to the polling, the Greens and the Alpha Party and Reform UK are getting nothing in Scotland.
Yeah.
Nothing. So, I mean, I know I've given this advice before, but I think the Greens should save their money for the Scottish election, which will be coming next.
Yeah.
You know,
David, do you mind if I just reply to Kevin Rowling that says, please Scotland need to remember where their tax monies come from, right? It's about 5 or 6 down, all right? Kevin, you have to understand, we've all been writing to the police to complain. The police do not make the decision on what actually goes to court. It is either in Scotland the Procurator Fiscal, or in England it's the Crown Prosecution Service. Seemingly, obviously, also we have two. We've got the Crown Office in the Scotland office, and that is under the tutelage of Alistair Jack. What I would say now is the best idea is, instead of writing to Police Scotland, start writing to your MPs.
now, as I say, the point about the writing to Police Scotland was to force them to make a statement, and they've tried to cover their own arse by saying it's up to the Crown Office. But the pressure we were putting on them was, why is it taking so long?
Yeah, yes. Sorry to bring that back up when you're already on to another one.
Anyway,
We're on the Greens being say no pact with the SNP at the general election.
that's right.
We'll fight our own battle.
Aye, and listen, it's a democracy, they're entitled to.
Yeah.
But as I say, for me, I'm looking at the poll, and it's going to be a wasted vote.
Yeah.
Which could be going to a stronger pro-independence party.
Yeah. Correct.
I think, Stephen, the Greens have not let themselves down. They've had an electoral bounce here in Scotland. They'd like to make a breakthrough into the Westminster Parliament.
Yeah.
As a democracy, they're entitled to run. They're a registered political party. I don't see the point in it myself. I don't even see the point in them coming out and stating they won't go into a pact with the SNP. I have no idea why such a statement's been made.
Yeah.
But when we look at it, and we've looked at every single poll, and I mean we've looked at every single poll since speculation about a general election started, and none of them did the Greens, the Alpha Party, or Reform UK have a showing in Scotland at all for a general election.
I think purely and simply the wording of the Greens say no pact with the SNP at general election is there to fool those who have no idea about the democratic process and the democratic rules that we have in place. So it's maybe beefs the Greens up into something that they're not. The last election, the SNP needed the Greens to form a government in Holyrood. And that was it. End of story, right? That's where the pact took place. However, when it comes to a Westminster election, the Greens are, as David says, are trying to get into Westminster, right? With the Scottish Greens. Hands up all those who think it'll happen.
It won't happen.
Correct.
As I've just said, poll after poll since they started this crap. And we've been talking about this since last summer.
Yeah.
Poll after poll after poll shows that the Alpha Party, the Green Party, and Reform UK are not making a breakthrough here in Scotland.
Yeah.
Now, the Greens have had a cracking result in the Scottish elections. And that's where they should be concentrating their efforts.
Yeah.
Because what we also see for the polling in England and Wales is Caroline Lucas, when she storms down, Labour's taking that seat, according to the polling.
Yeah. Right.
And there'll be no Green MPs in the Parliament doing that road again.
Yeah.
So, but we've spoken about how long it takes to take a breakthrough, and we're going to move on to that. Happy birthday, SNP.
Aye, that's right. 90 years today. 90 years today.
I'm not quite today, but
SNP. Yes, I remember when I was boy.
that's a fair point. With the Greens running, they might also take some vote of votes off Labour.
Yeah.
Keep the SNP right through the middle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because a lot of Labour voters have defected to the Greens.
So I won't write off the Greens right now because, okay, there are things that they do and they say that are relevant to our lives going forward. So, but at the same time, I think this idea of, right, we're going to get a couple of Greens elected in the Scottish part of the general election, it's not going to happen.
Well, anyway, SNP 90 years old.
Yep.
And then we look at, and the reason why we're bringing this one up is nothing to do with the campaign day. We've just had all that to do with it. Nothing to do with whom's the use of telling you what his priorities were and how independence has to be forefront and that. Just the usual platitude stuff. But the point that we're making here is to 90 years for the SNP to get where they are today. 90 years. So if anybody thinks the Alpha Party or the Greens Party are coming up to replace them, I think the Greens have been around since the 50s. And the Alpha Party's been around 50 minutes.
All right, okay. Maybe it's slightly more than that, David. But anyway, yes.
The point is, it's taken the SNP in devolution to make the breakthrough of where we are now.
Yeah.
The Greens and the Upper Party are not just showing up and expecting to win it. Hi, Sir Larry, nice to see you there. And expect to actually make an impact. I mean, let's face it, to be fair, the Greens are starting to make an impact in the Scottish public as a consciousness, especially in the Scottish elections. But they are not making an impact in the Scottish people's consciousness and when it comes to this Westminster election. Now, the Alpha Party aren't making it into the Scottish people's consciousness at all.
Yeah.
I still ask people in the village, what do you think about this for the Alpha Party? What do you think of that for? And the first thing is, who the fuck's the Alpha Party?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's the truth.
I just think that the message that's got to get out for the general election is vote SNP, because unless we get a huge number down at Westminster from the SNP, I'm talking like over 40, certainly over 40 MPs.
I would say over 35 at least to show a full majority.
Yeah. We're
backpedaling, David.
Yeah, we're backpedaling. That's best way you could phrase it.
But as I say, the whole point, apart from the fact we're celebrating the 90th birthday of the SNP as a political party, we're pointing out how long it takes for an impact to be made.
Yeah.
You know, especially in politics today. And if we look at how long it took the Labour Party to make an impact as well, you know, really, I think they were 30, 40 years before they made an impact. But there was a huge movement at the time, you know.
Yes.
The Alpha Party and are a fraction of the independence movement, and the Green Party are their own animal. It's been around for a long time. The Scottish Green Party, of course, has only been around for 23 years.
Yeah.
Because they registered as a separate political party when devolution came around. They didn't want to be part of the main body and take their orders for doing south, the way Labour and Conservative do. Well, but as I say, 90 years and they've done well. They're top in the polls. I mean, if we look at Labour's history down through their existence, I think they're about 113, 114 years old. They're not that much older, actually.
Yeah.
When they came about, late 1800s, they're a fair bit older,
Yeah.
about 30, 40 years older. But if we look at the movement that was on then, the SNP have had no such mass movement by the workforce.
Yeah.
In fact, when you get right down to it, the SNP didn't really become the party of the workforce and the people here in Scotland until after devolution and after Tony Blair, when Labour shed its clothes and moved to Tory life. And now they've shed their clothes again and became full-on Tory.
Yeah.
You know, whereas the Tory party have moved into the realms of the BNP and UKIP. You know, which is quite astounding. But 90 years and riding top of the polls, that's a great achievement. A great achievement.
Of course it is. But also, what's another great achievement is the amount of time that the SNP have stood up as the country's government. I think that's wonderful.
Well, as I say, and a lot of we have to say is thanks to the last referendum.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
because we went into our last referendum, I think it was something like 11 MPs.
Yes. Well, no, don't forget, when we went into the last referendum, we'd had the 2011, where the 2007 one was when we first got the majority for the SNP
No, we
in
get
the
the
polling,
minority
right?
in
But then 2000,
2000.
yeah, 2011 was the one where Alex Salmond felt he had the power to actually say, right, we're having a referendum. That's it,
Right.
you know.
But at that time, I think in Westminster was only between 11 and 13 SNP MPs.
Yeah.
That's
But then it was 2015 when we actually put in 57, I think it was. 56 or 57.
56 out of 59.
Yeah.
And then that dropped down to 48. And then, of course, we had the Neil Henry walk before.
Yeah.
Then we had the Tory woman for the East Kilbride MP walk before, the Conservatives taking it down to 46. So that's how long it's taken to get a breakthrough. But if it hadn't been for devolution, we would still be sitting in a bad position.
Yeah.
You know,
But the thing is, you have to understand the formation of the devolved parliament and that 75% vote was the people of Scotland saying, no, this is ours, right? And that's very important. That is a hugely important vote.
no, what's hugely important was the bit that came after it, David, when the people of Scotland said, no, this is ours, and they decided what ours was.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a different matter. Anyway, let's move on and down that road, shall we? So
Oh,
happy
yes.
SNP and vote SNP, folks. Keep your eyes on the prize.
Yep.
Right, let's move down that road. West Street and further privatisation.
Oh, I thought we were going to mention at this point about Brexit getting bumpier.
Yeah, well, we can do that now. We can do it during the pensions thing. But Brexit getting bumpier, okay.
Yeah.
Now, this is a story about food security, David.
Yes. And this is why I wanted it put in, because you've talked about food security ongoing now for years.
Yes, extensively. Anyway, it's now official what I've been saying in the last couple of shows. Going to the supermarket is now Russian roulette.
Yeah.
You do not know what you're getting in your packaging.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the essence of this story, and it has to do with. It also talks about food shortages because of the checks being introduced on the 30th of April. Now, as we know, they're no checking the goods on the back of the lorries, as I've already spoke about. What they're going to do is they'll take the inventory from the driver, ensure that they've registered the right amount of consignments for food consignments for tax and for checks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then as long as they pay their bill, they're just going to wave it through.
Sounds like the old carny system.
Huh?
Sounds like the old carny system. You know, when I used to, when I was a boy and I played in a band, we'd go to Germany and going through Venlo, we'd have to go in, take our army, showing all our musical equipment that was in the back of the truck into this office at Venlo, and we'd see all the big trucks drivers with like a pile of documents that thick, and that was the carnival. Everything that was in the back of that, and it had been checked by the British customs and given a seal, and the seal was put on the back of the truck. And when they presented that, they could take that as being that's what's in there, right? And so it sounds to me as if we're returning back to that system in the opposite direction. Do you think?
No, that's exactly what it is, David. As I say, but as they order their paper up, they'll have a look to see how many consignments are that, and what sort of consignments are there, especially food, of course.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the import duties will be applied. Now, that's going to increase costs massively. You know, we're already having to pay the export going out the way to Europe.
But the one thing that you've pointed out, and we have pointed out many times in the past, is that England's bucket will get filled first on the food coming through and whatever's coming through, right? Stuff making it up to Scotland might not be so secure.
David, that's got to do with the logistics of it, the reason why it won't make it much further than the southeast. Because it'll take that bloody long to get through.
Yes.
That by the time they drive it north, it'll be half anyway.
Yes.
You know, so most of the food that's been imported comes through the channel, comes through the Euro tunnel and comes across in the boats, right? It'll be weighted out. Once they get in, if they were to carry out these checks, which they're telling me they're not going to, they're just going to check the odd truck or two. Once it gets in, if they were to carry out these checks, they've built these big facilities to do it.
Yes.
But they're just not going to do it. They're not going to check a hand for them. And what they'll do is they'll take non-food good stuffs and send them in to get checked. So that's even worse again, because there's nothing getting checked that's coming in.
Yep.
As I say, and it's being pointed out now by politicians and scientists that this stuff is going to be a biohazard, a health hazard.
Yep.
And we may be looking at food poisoning outbreaks, E. coli outbreaks, all that sort of thing, because we don't know what's coming through.
I can assure you that there will be pretty underhanded vendors the other side of the channel, same as there are here, right? And it'll be those underhanded vendors that'll be going, that consignment shellfish, it's maybe not quite on date. I will send it anyway.
Aye. And the amount of stuff that will go to landfill and things like that. But so there is a wee bit of a bumpy ride coming down. Never mind the fact that it's going to shove up food prices again, as well as food being much more expensive.
Yeah.
We're not going to know what we're getting.
Yeah.
And the really cheap stuff, the stuff that we brought in from out with the EU, well, you don't know what you're getting there anyway.
Yeah.
We know they've lowered standards on Brazilian beef. Mm-hmm. We know they've cut a deal with Australia and New Zealand for hormone treated meats. In other words, animals that have been injected with hormones to make them grow quicker and faster and bigger and things like that. And we know that food standards for things like wheat and flour for South America are much, much lower.
Yeah.
Right, so let's move on, David, because we're taking a wee bit of time to get this one.
Yeah,
right, West Street tells us that the Labour Party will use much more of the private sector and NHS England to clear the backlog. But as we know, once they're given the contracts, they'll never go back into the NHS, those contracts.
That's right. And the fact of the matter is that the NHS hospitals down south. We've already seen the particular units doing particular work being put up for bid, and private companies winning that bid. And that means then that any money coming through for maybe ankle joints or something like that, all specialisms, go to that private unit. And when the Chancellor stands up in the House of Commons and he says, we have given another £12 billion to whatever, right, and the NHS, it's going directly into the pockets of the people that own the private companies. And the NHS hospital is getting very little of it. Because as you know, the money follows the patient.
There is a bright side to it, of course, David. Because the government will find private sector companies who basically use NHS doctors, so just transfer the workforce. Those who are used to using private medicine won't be getting any. They'll be joining the waiting list.
That's right.
Because they'll deal with the government contracts first in that road. The big problem we've got is once that money is lost to the NHS, the block grant coming north shrink. And once that happens, of course, we then have to go down that same route. But you can see it being incrementally led towards a different type of healthcare system down that road altogether.
So anyway, let's say West Streeton says, right, okay, this is going to happen, right, and it does happen. What then is the point of somebody going and buying health insurance for the family?
None
whatsoever, is there? Because you're going to get the same service, right? You're just going to pay more for it if you buy health insurance, because you sure as damn it are not going to get anything off your tax bill for buying health insurance. And that's how it's going to be when eventually they've managed to put health insurance through as part of the NHS system in England.
Well, as I say, as you know, David, what they're basically doing is they're actually transferring NHS patients out of the NHS into the private sector. The money follows the patient. That was the whole point of the 2012 Care Act in that road. Whereas here, the money goes into the service and the patient rocks up to the service and gets the treatment.
Anne mentioned quite rightly, she said they're looking at the Australian way of doing health services. But as you'll remember, Anne, there was somebody actually put up a rather famous comment in Facebook saying that one of the head spokesperson for the Australian Health Service looked at the Scottish Health Service as being the golden level of how health services should be run.
Right, we better move on. Over Dowden, Deputy Prime Minister, tells us on the telly that legal advice on Israel's behaviour in Gaza has not changed. So the government in Westminster are no concerned about continuing to sell weapons to Israel. Now,
morally and ethically wrong, isn't it?
Well, what we do know is that if the legal advice hasn't changed, then the legal advice is definitely crap. Because last week we had 600 judges. 600 judges! 6 of them had been the highest law officers in the 3 legal systems in the UK. Tell them that they're breaking international law by continuing to give weapons to Israel. And we have Dowden on the television telling us that no, as far as they're concerned, and Israel has acted within international humanitarian law. And telling us that the government's advice the Home Office advice hasn't changed. There's been no way the Alicia, whatever her name is, the head of the Foreign Affairs Committee, down that road, tell us that the Foreign Office has had legal advice telling them that Israel has broken international humanitarian law. We'll get
The thing is though, David Cameron has now been asked umpteen times, well, come on, release the legal advice you've had. And all he does is just body swerve it.
Well, actually, the get out line there is the government doesn't have to publish its legal advice. It's also true here in Scotland, because they claim it would it would impinge on the impartiality of the judiciary, would mean public pressure on the judiciary when they come to these decisions.
I think common sense says that any government could actually usurp that particular rule and just say, here's the legal advice we got. If it was in their favour, they would bloody well do it.
Well, as I say, but that's the argument in the Parliaments. All right. But as I say, he sits on the telly and he tells us, as far as they're concerned, and Home Office advice is that Israel is acting within humanitarian, international humanitarian law, and there's a complex situation apart.
Right, okay. How complex does it need to be?
I don't see anything complex about
it. Yeah.
You cut water and electricity, communications, and food supplies after a population. It's a war crime.
Yeah. Correct.
You attack a medical facility, a school. It's a war crime.
Yeah. And this is something that both the Tories and the Labour in opposition have both been in agreement with, and to the point of Keir Starmer actually saying that Israel has the perfect right to withhold water, food, electricity and fuel, right?
And that was what Oliver Dowden was saying. He was saying that Israel has the right to defend itself. Does Dowden not understand that under international law, the occupier isn't defending, it's oppressing?
Yeah, that's right.
It's the use of language.
Yeah.
They're treating people like fucking idiots. Pardon my French, I've been a good boy today.
Yeah.
You know, but when they treat the public as stupid, Israel has the right to self-defense. The oppressor isn't defending itself, it's oppressing. The people rising up against the oppressor are the terrorists. They're freedom fighters, depending on how you label it.
Yeah.
They're people fighting oppression. Depending on how you label it, Right, let's leave that one to one side now. And I'd like to say it is a good news story, David, but we just spoke about the bumpiness of Brexit and the fact that food prices are going to shoot up again. But pensions go up by 8.5% today, and other benefits go up by 6.7% today. It won't even make an impact on where we're in the cost of living crisis.
Yeah, because with me, I'm actually sinking back the way. Yeah, when you start working out what the cost of living is, what the inflation is, all the rest of it, and what that does to that figure, if you're talking 8.5% on top of a pension, and when you look at the real stuff that's going on regarding prices and all the rest of it, in the supermarkets and all the rest of it, and especially electricity and gas. What are we going to do with that one?
Thank me later there, David, for OVO Energy. Tell me, great, my energy bill's going is going down by £229 this month because of the change to the cap. Right. And I'm saying to myself, yabba dabba do. So my electricity bills went down from £3,000 to £2,900. 2 years ago, I was paying £900 a year.
Right.
There's been a 220% rise in my electricity bills for 2 fucking years.
Yeah. Well, I can officially say now, because I don't know if you remember, there was all the big thing about me saying, I want this meter checked. Just my
I am.
electricity meter, right? Just my electricity meter, right? I actually had an award made from the Ombudsman against my supplier of electricity,
Cool.
which is Octopus. I'll spell that for you if you want. OCT, I won't bother. You get it, right? Okay. It was Octopus, right? And the point of the matter is they're supposed to have fitted a check meter to actually check if my meter is running correctly. I know it isn't. I know I'm paying massively over the odds for my electricity just through doing what an engineer does, right? However, it was a case of getting a check meter in. I had to put a piece of wood up above where the electricity meter is and drill holes at the top of the car. An act of vandalism in a nice, pretty porch entrance hall, right? It's still there after a year and 2 months.
Oh Jesus.
So that and I've had the monies that the ombudsman has given me, right? But he hasn't managed to get them to provide me with a check meter. So the next stage of my little personal campaign is going to be right. Check meter still isn't fitted, Mister Ombudsman.
I'm sure enough for a spelling prowess.
I can't spell it, and it's just a thought. I'll spell it out so that they know I'm with a case.
Gingers is telling us that our pay rise from gingers in America, our pay increase of 2.5% pushed her over the limit where her employer would pay for her medical insurance. She now had to pay for it herself, which is more than the pay rise was.
Yeah,
So basically, our pay rise doesn't mitigate the damage that's been done by the pay rise. And it's a
yeah.
bit like what's happening with benefits and with pensions here. It doesn't even. I mean, David, let's face it. Every penny you get in a rise in your pension, it's not even going to cover how much your electricity's went up.
But not just that. It's like every time I shop at Aldi's, right, and every time Leslie now goes in, not me. We're buying the same stuff. Bills just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Everything is going up by little bits all the time. I'm waiting on £49,000 from Waspy. Think waiting a while. All right, fair
And
enough. Exactly.
there's 13 waspy women die a day. Let's hope you
Yeah,
may get compensation before it gets to
it's
you.
ridiculous. They shouldn't have been kept waiting that long. When we can afford to give the money for nuclear weapons in the west of Scotland, yeah, coming from the Defence Department, we can certainly afford to pay people's proper pension and any claims that they've got against it.
Right, we better move on. It's only a couple of minutes left. I love
Yeah,
this one, David. This one is just funny. A Tory MP, Mr. Ragg, like Willie Ragg, and the fishing expedition. Uh, Unfortunately, he was a fish that got caught in the hook,
yeah,
wasn't he? I mean, we all get it. The lassies all get it. Facebook, the messages will pop up. Hi, I liked your profile. Fishing expedition. You know, the guys all get it. Your Facebook messenger will pop up and it's, hey, you want to see some pictures? You know, fishing.
but the thing is, no, but the thing that gets me is he's an MP. He should, for goodness sake, he should be aware that people are going to go fishing expert. I'd like to see the size of your wee man, right? And it's like you start putting up pictures online. What do you think is going to happen to them pictures? What a dodo!
Well, what happened was he get blackmailed. He get blackmailed
Huh?
into going to other MPs' telephone numbers, so the fishing went to online to text messaging.
Yeah,
Fortunately, other MPs were wise enough to tell the cops and block it.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, but no, Mr. Rag. Hey, he gets his wee man out and takes pictures of him and sends them on. I mean, come on, people. I mean, most of us are silver surfers, and we know how to deal with this nonsense. How does a 30-something MP know how to know how to, is there something lacking in their security training?
There's something lacking in their head.
I just found it astonishing, David. You know,
Yeah, I know.
I mean, we've all had these fishing exhibitions, come to our doors. You know, on Facebook, on email, whatever.
Funnily enough, the very day I turned 66, they all stopped. There you go.
Uh, so I can look forward to them stopping at 66. What happens then? They get the life
You get,
insurance
you
adverts
get, aye, that's
or,
it. Yes,
or the funeral plan adverts.
that's it. That's the one. You've got it. Yeah.
So nowhere young women trying to tempt me. There'll be funeral parlours and life insurance.
It is an IT algorithm that runs your life. That's it. There
It's
you
an
go.
IT algorithm that got this muppet to
Yeah.
breach national security. Woof! I want to put the camera, Nathan, 200 watching live on YouTube. A lot of the viewers have had to come out of YouTube for Facebook today because Facebook's not letting me broadcast today.
So, Dean,
Problems that
if
got.
you're just in the hate crime thing we covered at the start of the program, so maybe if you get a chance to watch back, you'll see what we said about that. Okay.
Oh, Nathan's only pointing out that we more or less broke the record for viewers on YouTube up at 200 because normally we get about 180 on YouTube and another 50 or 60 on Facebook. But we'll boast a few of the Facebookers a day.
Wouldn't it be nice if everybody just joined us on YouTube? Makes things, you know, and it's like, I'll go, bye bye, Facebook.
Would you might call it?
Yeah.
Right, well, I mean, we've basically done everything to death, but we'll have a quick look to see if there's anything new on the Israel, Gaza, and Ukraine front. Let's start with Ukraine. Ukraine nuclear plant drone strike prompts warning. Aye, that's no see, that's serious. When Putin's trying to take out your big nuclear reactor, that'll affect everybody, right
Yes.
across Europe and probably into
Yeah.
North America.
Yeah.
Eh,
But the thing is, he's got to be careful because depending on what's happening with the weather, any fallout could be dragged right into Russia.
And we've got no boots on the ground, says Cameron in the Ukraine, and we've got Russian neighbours urging NATO allies to bring back military service. They're talking about conscription again. I don't know how many times I'll say this, but
Personally, my thoughts on it is that the first corporate wars have been fought. They've all been labelled as something else, all right? But I put up a post last night called Yankee Guns for Sale, and I think that's the way it's going to go. We're going to end up where BRICS suddenly, with the extra 26 countries that are joining it this year, that the petrodollar will fall flat on its arse. And what will happen is that these corporate sector will look to the US as being, well, they're well tooled up, aren't they? Eh?
no, I'm not
Let's
going to
use
use
them.
that one because we're talking about, in this case, conscription, right? That's what a ex-Eastern Bloc countries who are no aligned with Russia are saying, that the West needs to bring in conscription. Well, I'm going to tell you something. If I was a professional soldier today, I wouldn't want a conscript strapped to my ass. One of the reasons why the Russians have lost so many soldiers is because they're conscripts. And I didn't want to babysit one. But this idea of conscripting people into the military, and we're hearing this sort of stuff coming from ex-ministers of defence here in the UK, mobilise the people, wars coming, mobilise the people, wars coming. Listen, this is just fear mongering again.
Yeah.
It's just fear mongering again. Find out what frightens the people and give them it. Right, let's look and see what's new in Gaza, shall we? Israel reduces troop numbers in southern Gaza. Obstacles to peace seen larger than ever. Well, obstacles of peace is Netanyahu will rotate his foot off a boot and Israel won't agree to a two-state solution.
Well,
Apparently, thousands of Israelis protested and demanded hostage deal. Germany has been reported to the ICJ for being complicit in genocide by Nicaragua.
Yeah.
We can expect many more members of the United Nations to make such complaints against America, Canada, Australia,
Yeah.
the US, UK, and I think we're going to start to see a wee bit more pressure. I don't know if they're going to be able to bring it to a halt before the critical point where the population in Gaza are beyond the point of no return.
Yeah.
As we know, this is a sort of extinction event here when it comes to this famine stroke starvation. You know, we are getting to a critical point. There is no healthcare, no health service, there's still no sanitation, there's no water, very little food. And up until the Western aid workers get killed, Israel had already killed 197 aid workers. They were chasing the NGOs out of Palestine.
Yeah.
If it hadn't been for the wider Western citizens being subject to one of Israel's war crimes, because taking out an aid worker is a war crime,
Yeah.
then we wouldn't be seeing the backlash for both the new.
Yeah.
And as I say, we have now seen the true horror of Netanyahu and his administration, because this is an extinction event that he was trying to get away with.
Well, he knows that from the pressure within his own country that he is facing something dreadful if he gets pushed out of business, out of his own parliament.
I will. As I say, we're going to see more and more of the nations within the United Nations flex their muscle.
Well, I heard yesterday that the IDF were saying they'd found another one of the Hamas hostages dead.
One of the Israeli hostages was held by Hamas.
Yeah.
I know. We're going to hear all this nonsense again. As you pointed out, David, there was even a documentary on the other night to show us the kibbutz where Hamas allegedly ran a savvy.
Yeah.
And apparently that kibbutz is now deserted. And we had where the victim story played out.
Yeah.
You know, these houses are empty now. Well, you stole them off the Palestinian people who fucking starving. Maybe they can move back. See, you've destroyed the rest of their houses. But you've got to be careful what you say. You could end up getting censored.
Yeah.
You know. And the other thing we have to say, by the way, I've blocked Joel again. I don't know how he got back in, folks. But because I blocked him last week. But he's been blocked now for Restream and for YouTube.
Yeah.
Now, what David and I are going to have to say here is because some of the comments, especially in YouTube, and we don't, in Facebook, we can't moderate Facebook, and some of the comments can be a bit tasty. And David and I have to say that some of the comments, the views expressed in comments, are not the views expressed by the hosts. Apparently, we have a need to say that these days,
Yes.
or we could get our bookie kicked.
Unfortunate, but it's just a wee single phrase that we've got to say each time, right?
No, each time
as simple as the opinions held by viewers are not necessarily the opinion of the two Davies.
Aye.
That's it. Yeah.
But keep up the comments, guys, and keep talking to each other. The debates in the comments are brilliant. They say, I have to have an investigation into why Facebook isn't allowing me to stream to Facebook today. It quite clearly shows here in the studio, David, up in the right-hand corner here, that I am streaming to YouTube and Facebook via the streaming service. So it's Facebook that's blocking the streaming service.
Yeah.
Because the streaming service is sending the signal out. But we'll have a wee look into that. Right, David, I think we've more or less covered everything for you. It's been wonderful having you back, dear boy.
Well, this wee item that I bought the weekend, but believe it or not, the whole purchase that I had to make was nearly £2,000. I got a laptop worth 400 quid, which I needed for business and all the rest of it, right? But my daughter, who's been bleating on about it for long enough, got a gaming laptop at nearly 1,400 quid, you know. So,
Mere
yeah.
mug you. Mere mug you. You get 400, she get 1,400.
No,
You
it was
I've got a
1,600. It
fucking
was
PlayStation and thrown
1,500
it
and something. Yeah,
in. Ah, you should have
yeah.
bought a PlayStation and thrown it
She's got that.
in. Yeah. But anyway,
So,
folks, time to move on. We've more or less covered everything. So remember, keep your comments civil in the comments, please, guys. We don't want to get censored by YouTube. And we'll look into what Facebook has been up to. Now, folks, election year, eyes on the prize. When you walk up to that box, that ballot box, and you're about, sorry, when you walk into the polling booth and you're about to put your cross in the box, think to yourself, what's best for Scotland? Put your cross in the SNP box. Right, David, that just leaves one thing left to do.
hi, Davey.
Tell the people to share and like.
Yes, the subscriptions. That's something that I need to mention. We need to get a lot more subscriptions on. So if you are sitting there having watched us, you maybe haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do, because it means that any money, once the monetization comes back in again, any monies that we get from that will benefit from the number of subscribers.
Aye, it throws out advertising revenues. Right, our stuff in a Hugh. David and I know we need mods. We just don't know how to fucking do it. We've got a lot of people in mind, but we've no idea how to make anybody a moderator.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Shuggy, if you know how to do it, give me a wee phone, brother.
What was it? What was it you? What was it you called them the other day? Spanners.
Spanners, aye, you get a wee spanner symbol.
No, hang on a sec. If I call somebody a spanner, that's an insult, isn't it?
I call somebody a spanner, it's a fucking promotion. Right, that just leaves one thing left to say, David.
Bye, Davey.
Bye,
Bye,
David.
guys.